What is going on, guys? As you guys can tell, I already have the tent set up. I'm ready to get started on today's project. Today what I plan to do to my car is fix one of the oil leaks. I know it's dripping from the oil pan a little bit. I'm hoping that's it. Hopefully it's not the rear main seal, but I mean, there's only one way to find out. Go ahead and replace the gasket and just hope for the best. So without taking any time, let's go ahead, pop the hood. Let's get this thing on some jacks. Cool, so the car is jacked up. I got jacks underneath. I did put a block in the back just to make sure it doesn't roll back. And so the first thing I'm gonna do is take off this cover for the header here. Everything is nice and cool, it's not hot. Now usually to drop the oil pan, a lot of people are gonna drop this downpipe in order to go ahead and drop the oil pan. But if you guys had seen my previous video, one of the bolts had broken. One of them came off and the other one is about to break. So I don't want to go ahead and break in. There's no way to put my downpipe on, or I'm going to have to put studs back on it. So in order to avoid that, I'm going to be taking off the shield, taking off the header from the head itself, and then we'll be able to drop the oil pan. So I'm going to get started on this first. So this cover is off. The bolts are actually 12mm bolts. This one here, the bracket is broken, so that one did not come off. And I had just dropped this through the bottom. I'm more than likely not going to be putting that cover back on, but now I need to go ahead and take off these nuts that are holding on the header. These are going to be 12mm as well. So all the nuts thankfully had came off. None of them were rusted on. Now usually, I don't know if you can see down here, there's a bracket that holds on the header, but that bracket for me is broken. I don't know if you guys can't see that, it's broken, so the header is just able to go in and out right now. And then here we are down here, there's that bracket that is broken, just split right down that middle. So all I gotta do is unplug the 202 sensors. There's one right there, and then one over there on the end of that little pipe. Now of course, if you had the catalytic converter, you're going to have to disconnect it. And again, sometimes those bolts just might be rusted, but I only have 2 bolts on here that secure it to the block right there. Unplug O2s and get this thing down. So the header downpipe is out the way. We're closer to the oil pan here, but there are some brackets I need to take off. This bracket looks like maybe a 14, 212s. Again over here, looks like another 14, 212s. And gotta get this flywheel inspection plate off. That's held on by, I think maybe just 2 10s, one on over here, then one on the other side. So did get those brackets off, got the inspection plate down. Everything is right there. It is pretty dirty down here. The other thing I did do is take off that bolt that was holding on the bracket for the header. That's not going to go back on. I just took it off. I tried to take it off the header, but I can't get a socket on it. There's the bolt and bracket that was on the block, and then the bolt that I can't get off. I just can't seem to find a socket that perfectly fits on there without stripping it. So that's going to stay on there. And then there's the broken bolt that I talked about, and these right here. So I did kind of have to use a pry bar to fully get it off, just because that bracket back here was kind of preventing it. It was hitting the oil pan. Alright, so now of course, before dropping the oil pan, you want to go ahead and empty it out. But now Time to take off all these 10 mil bolts that go around the oil pan, which should allow the oil pan to just drop right down. Okay, so first thing I'm going to clean, since I have the header off, is I'm going to clean up the front side of this block here. It's just real oily, real nasty. And I do have the oil pan down here. I'm going to grab some mineral spirits and start scrubbing it on up. So I put a lot of time into cleaning. As you could probably tell, engine block is pretty clean. And then here's the oil pan all cleaned up. All the bolts, went through each one of them. And then of course I did clean up the mating surface. Took off that Honda bond. Cleaned up the underside of the transmission a bit. Things are looking a lot better down here. We'll get started on putting the oil pan back up. Here's the old oil pan gasket. This thing is pretty hard. It doesn't even feel like rubber anymore. It's like a hard plastic. As you can see right there, it's no good. It's time to put the new oil pan gasket on. I got one from Felpro right here. The part number right here, 0S30691R. And here's the brand new gasket. This is real nice soft rubber. This is not going to break, and this is going to fix my problems. But before throwing the gasket on, you do want to put some Honda bond all right here in this section before you put the gasket in, and over here in this section in the hump. And then after you put the gasket on, put a little bit more on top of the gasket so it could seal in between the block and the oil pan. Alright, so the inspection plate is tightened up, the brackets are tightened up. I did already drop the oil filter. I got a new oil filter here from Honda, part number 15400PLMA02. Throw that right on. Now I'm going to try to put my exhaust back on. Like I said, I did have to pry it from the engine block or the head in order to get it off. So it might be a little bit difficult to get it back on, just because again I have it as one full piece. And so let's go ahead and give this a try. I am going to go ahead and just reuse this manifold gasket, but you can definitely use a new one. So that was a little hard, but it was actually a lot easier than I thought it would be. Again, I'm not going to put the cover for the exhaust manifold on here. I'm just going to leave it without. I did already tighten the bolts. Of course, you're going to want to tighten from starting from the center one, working your way outwards until you have the desired torque spec that you want. And then of course down here, I did tighten everything also. Plugged up the O2 sensors over there. And this one right here. And the 2 bolts onto the bracket. Now all I gotta do is put some oil in, take it off the jack stands, and we should be good to go. And of course there is the Honda oil filter. Here we are down here, drove over 1,000 miles. I don't see any oil leaks, not even the rear main seal. So that really takes care of the major oil leak that my engine had. I'm not losing any oil. I checked the dipstick, everything looks good. Now hopefully you guys found this video helpful, especially if you're doing this job as well. Let me know if you have any questions down below, because I'm going to catch you on the next one.